Stepmom falsely accused me to block my inheritance. Dad believed her. 7 years later, he learned the truth. Hello everyone. My biological parents divorced when I was 9. They shared custody, so I spent weekdays with my mother near my school and weekends with my father. Even though they were apart, both were kind and loving. I knew they both cared for me. A few years later, when I was 11, my dad introduced me to Gina, who would become my stepmother. She seemed pleasant, and my dad was happy. Gina had twin daughters, Emma and Emily, who were 14 then. They had been raised without their father, and often acted immaturely, throwing tantrums when they did not get their way. As an introvert, I mostly watched quietly. After about a year of dating, my dad and Gina married when I was 12. My mother even attended the wedding. I was excited at first. I wanted us to get along, but months after the honeymoon, Gina told me she did not like me. She said we should pretend to get along when my dad was around, but stay out of her way, otherwise, because I reminded her of my mother. Hearing that crushed me. The twins overheard and later taunted me, saying my dad preferred them. I cried and told my mom, who called my dad. He insisted I must have misheard. He did not believe Gina would say such things. The next weekend, when I was with my dad, Gina stayed quiet around him. As soon as he left, she whispered threats. If I ever told my mother what she had said, she would make sure I no longer had a father. She warned she would divorce him and take all his money, leaving him destitute. At 12 years old, I was terrified for my dad and stayed silent. From then on, Gina made my life miserable. Whenever we were alone, she said hurtful things about my height, my weight, calling me ugly, and I endured it silently, hoping it would stop. My dad never seemed to notice. He believed we had a good relationship. He would sometimes force us to do family outings, paying with his credit card, but Gina would not let me eat a proper meal at restaurants. I was given only soup or dessert, while they ate the main course. I would go home hungry, and often cried myself to sleep. I dreaded visiting my father on weekends, and started making excuses, like claiming a stomachache, so I could stay with my mom. My parents noticed and my dad would call, upset I was not visiting. My mother urged me to tell her if something was wrong, but I stayed quiet out of fear. When I was 14, my dad took the whole family on a trip to Greece. I did not want to go, but my mother encouraged me to travel. In front of my dad, Gina acted sweet. Behind his back she made subtle hurtful jokes, teasing my height and suggesting I focus on studies rather than sports. The twins smirked and called me names, even though I had better grades than them. When I told my dad the comments hurt, he dismissed them as teasing and insisted I take it lightly. One day during the trip, fed up with being teased about my weight while trying to enjoy the pool, I snapped. I told the twins their double chins were embarrassing and told Gina her shrug over a bikini made her look like a penguin because her stomach was visible. Gina ran to the hotel room in tears. My dad confronted me angrily when he heard lecturing me about how I should not talk to a woman about her weight. He forced me to apologize to Gina, who made a scene. Back home, I told my mother everything. She talked to my dad, who blamed me for the situation. My mother threatened to call Child Protective Services if Gina ever commented on my weight again. After that, Gina stopped saying those things, but she and the twins began to blatantly ignore me when my dad was not around. When I was 16, my mom had to be away for a few days, so I stayed with my dad. Gina complained about cooking for an extra person, so I offered to cook. I prepared dinner. Everyone praised the meal. Later, I overheard Gina and her friends outside my window. They talked about how lucky she was to have a nice husband and house. Gina then ranted about how annoying I was and said she could not wait until I was 18, so she would not have to see me every weekend. One friend mentioned how nice I seemed. Gina admitted she had hoped I would fail at cooking so she could blame me. That shocked me. I had been trying to be polite despite knowing she disliked me. As I went to college, Gina's dislike grew. She scheduled family activities excluding me, yelled at me for minor things, and invaded my privacy, barging into my room, searching my belongings, and refusing to include me for meals she picked up for the family. I stayed respectful to avoid upsetting my dad, but nothing I did ever seemed enough. Now to the main incident. When I turned 21, my dad invited me over with news. I flew to see him, curious. At the family dinner, my father announced he had made a will after losing a friend to a heart attack and wanted to share his choices. He said he would leave the house to Gina, the management being her position as his wife. He planned to leave his retirement account and his car to me, the car being a well-maintained vintage he loved and had shared stories about. Gina and the twins reacted badly. They were clearly upset that I would inherit significant assets. Dad explained he would leave the joint bank account he shared with Gina to the twins, since Gina was a homemaker, and reassured them they would have money and a place to live. The twins complained, expecting more. They argued he should give them the retirement account as well. Gina intervened, saying I should find my own way as a man, and that the daughters, being women, needed more financial security. My dad reminded her he had already paid for their college and was giving them a house and a bank account, but Gina kept insisting I did not deserve the retirement account. My dad said his decision was final. Then, in a dramatic turn, Gina burst into tears and claimed she had kept something secret for years. She told a fabricated story that I had tried to force myself on her after our argument in Greece, that I had stared at her, barged into her room, and once attempted to assault her when we were alone. I was frozen. I vehemently denied the accusations and yelled at her for lying. Gina cried that she had suffered in silence and said she needed to expose me as a monster. The twins shouted words like rapist and molester. My dad, shocked and confused, asked why she had not said anything earlier. Gina replied she had feared no one would believe her since I was her husband's child, and she had stayed silent to protect the family. My pleas did not sway my father. Amid the chaos, he told me to leave the house until the matter was resolved. It felt like a punch to the gut, being rejected by my own father, who chose to believe his wife. I packed and left immediately, going straight to my mother. She was furious and wanted to confront Gina, but I asked her not to because I was afraid of Gina's unpredictability and what she might do next. I decided to cut off contact with my dad permanently. If he was willing to believe such lies and abandon me, I did not want him in my life. My dad later called my mother, expressing shame and saying he wanted nothing to do with me. His side of the family, convinced by Gina's story, attacked my mother too, accusing her of raising a pervert. The damage was done. Gina continued to harass me with vile messages and threats from the twins, so I changed my number to escape them. I became terrified of being around women, worried I could be falsely accused again and lose my career or freedom. Through all this, my mom believed me. I experienced severe depression and suicidal thoughts. My mother flew in to stay with me for a few months to help me recover. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life. I met Mara, who brought joy back into my life. My mom adores her. A week ago, an unknown number called. It was my dad, after nearly 7 years of silence. He sounded older. He begged for forgiveness and admitted he had been wrong to abandon me. He then explained what had happened. He discovered Gina had been cheating on him with his best friend. When he confronted her, she confessed, not only about the affair, but that she had made up the accusations against me because she hated me and wanted my father's wealth for herself and her daughters. My dad divorced her, and because of the affair and the evidence, Gina received nothing. He said he had been waiting to divorce her so he could reach out and apologize, hoping to rebuild our relationship. I was skeptical. I told him he was no father of mine, and that I wanted nothing to do with him. I ended the call. Since then, my father and his family have been calling and messaging, saying he has suffered enough, and that I am making things harder. Their messages have left me conflicted, Am I the bad person for refusing to speak to him after he believed Gina? Update 1. My post was temporarily locked, but it is fine now. I have reposted and tried to format it better. Thank you to everyone who offered support and advice. Your words helped me see things more clearly. I am not just angry that my dad believed Gina. I am angry that he did nothing to protect me while I was a child being blackmailed and manipulated. I think it is time to fully tell my mother everything that happened. She will understand. Update 2. It has been a week. I am doing okay. I booked my mother's tickets so she could visit. I told her and Mara about my dad's call. They were shocked. I opened up about the bullying and threats Gina used when I was 12, and how traumatic it all was. By the time I finished, I was in tears. My mother and Mara cried with me. My mother hugged me and said I should not have kept it all in. Mara said no child should have gone through that, and that it was fine if I never spoke to my father again. My mother agreed, saying I had no obligation to explain myself to someone who abandoned me. They pointed out that my father is reaching out now because he is lonely, not because he truly regrets what he did. After sharing this, I felt lighter. I blocked my father and will continue to block anyone from that side of the family who tries to interfere. I owe no explanations to those who chose to abandon me. Update 3. 6 months later. A lot has changed. I proposed to Mara, and she said yes. We are considering moving closer to my mother for better schools, since we can both work from anywhere. I also started therapy, which is helping step by step. I am focusing on the positives, Mara and my mother, and planning a future free from the lies and drama. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed, please do so, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more real-life stories.